Now, some people, they won't be convinced, and they will not be convinced unless they get proof of something. They have to have a proof, and they won't relent until they see some kind of proof. So, do any of you own like computers, like desktops or anything? Are you willing to undertake an experiment that you can do at any college? The only thing you need to do is like locate where they put their mainframe computer. And then you need to run some kind of program that always takes a certain amount of time for what sometimes they're called macros. They're computers within, or processes within a particular function of the computer that take a certain amount of time. For example, when you turn your computer on, it has a startup time that can be timed by your watch. So every time you open your computer and you start your computer and then it starts up and then it loads all the data, that will be basically, for the most part, if you're doing it in your home, it's going to have the same amount of time. And you can compare that time wherever you're at. So if your startup time for your computer presently is 8 seconds before it loads everything and you get all the data there, then that's what your startup time is. And that's based on the number of megahertz that your computer has. The more megahertz you have, the quicker the startup time of the computer. So if you got a 2 to 5 gig computer, 5 gig is going to boot you up a lot quicker than a 2.5 gig. And that has to do with the fact that what's happening at that point is that random access memory, which is called RAM, and that's the active memory of a computer, as opposed to the ROM, which is read-only memory. Read-only memory is just the bits of information, all of the bits of information that your computer can calculate with, everything that's in it. And RAM, random access memory, is like your mind remembering an event and then taking the particulars of the event and projecting them as a picture in your mind when you're imagining the first time you had sex, for example, when you lost your virginity. And so that's what your mind does. So your mind is basically booting up when you have a memory, or when you reconstruct a memory of your past. If the debutante is trying to think back to some experience she had in the past, then she has to bring that data out of her mind, which is kind of like read-only memory, but the power of her mind to work with read-only memory, that's called RAM, random access memory. And that's like the dynamic movement of memory, and it's an interaction of those two types of memory that when you hear your computer start up and it goes, and then you get all of your stuff is on your desktop. So you just take your watch and you time that for your computer and do a number of tests. Time it 10 times, time it 15 times, and see how long your computer takes to start up. And then ask whatever college you attend. Ask where's the mainframe computer there's usually a place where they house the main computer for the university, and that's where their computing is done. So you take your computer there on that property in that building, and you sit there and you load your computer up and you time it, and I bet you it boots up quicker. And so if there's not a root there, if there's not some root in the ground or something in the very fabric of space-time that's interacting with your computer and causing it to run more quickly, then why does it boot up quicker there? If you're in Rockford, for example, go to Rock Valley College, the tech center, and boot up there and do a careful timing under a number of tests, and compare that to your home and compare it to a few other places at your friends, and I bet you find that the fastest boot up time is right over there. And that's the proof that there are roots in the ground where they build the mainframe computers at colleges that are being utilized so their computers give them the fastest possible megahertz. And so it's not just the machine. It's the machine in interaction with the Earth. And that's your proof.